All right, guys. Last class we talked about committees. Today we're going to talk about committees and the role they play in a bill becoming a law. So I passed out a flow chart to everybody. Here it is right here. What we're going to do is, as I go through the PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to take you through the various steps that are involved in taking a bill from, or a law from an idea through to a bill and then eventually to a law. Okay? So, with that, and what I'd like y'all to do is fill out the chart as we go along. All right? And each block represents a step in the process. All right? So let's get going. And here we go. All right, Congress, how a bill becomes law. Just a little background before we get going. What's the picture on the left? Capitol building. Why am I showing the Capitol building?
That's what Congress means.
For Congress means. Who's in the middle?
That would be the House.
That is, it's actually not the House, that's the Senate. Does anybody know what famous event this is? Y'all saw it in the Ken Burns documentary. Who is that right there? That is Henry Clay, delivering his grand speech during the Compromise of 1850 proceedings. And then on the right, we have the modern day House in session. So let's get moving. All right, so what is a bill? What is a bill? A bill is a proposed law. It's an idea that's now being proposed to become a law and has been sponsored by a member of Congress and submitted to the clerk of the House or Senate. Now today, for the first segment, we're going to take a look at the House side. And the reason why we're doing it separately is because the House has different rules than the Senate. Okay. Now, any member of Congress may introduce a bill. Now, before we proceed, we'll go ahead and give you a little background. The bill becomes law. Everybody watch this.
Thanks for watching. The lawmaking process involves many stages in the House and Senate before a bill arrives on the President's desk for signature. Eleanor Nichols of the Congressional Research Service describes the legislative steps.
The basic flow chart on how a bill becomes a law is accurate much of the time, but not all of the time. What we have all been taught is that a bill is introduced, it is referred to a committee, which refers it further to a subcommittee. These days, many committees have overlapping jurisdictions over subject matter, so bills are frequently referred to more than one committee simultaneously. Then the committee chooses whether or not to bring the bill up and have hearings on it. And they are really the gatekeepers for the House floor. If they choose not to bring up the bill, our statistics show that 16% of most measures introduced in the average, most recent Congresses will clear committee. What that means, though, is that 84% do not. So that's where most legislation is going to die.
Okay, and that's a clip from 1990. We're going to get into the nuances of bill making next class. Today we are going to talk about the straightforward process of how a bill becomes law. So let me get back to the presentation, and we will begin our journey. All right, introduction would be the first step. Introduction would be the first step. A representative, in order to introduce a bill, either hands it to the clerk, who's located on the House floor, or drops it into the hopper. This is a box where bills can be dropped into. And that's the first step, introduction. Again, only House members may introduce a bill, and House bills begin with the prefix HR. Then there's committee referral. All right? Bills are referred to a committee by the Speaker of the House. So the bill goes from introduction to the Speaker. He now has the bill in his possession. And he will refer it to one of the standing committees of the House. So let's take a look at those standing committees. We have Agriculture, Appropriations, Armed Services, Education and Labor. Those are the 19 standing committees of the House. Now, what if the Speaker is not in favor of the bill, Violet? Well, he can't kill the bill personally himself, but what can he do? Now, like I said, bills, after they're introduced, they go to the Speaker.
He can refer it to a committee that he knows will kill the bill.
Yeah, he can refer to an unfavorable committee. Now, Han, what if the speaker is in favor of the bill?
Well, then he'll show it to his people.
Or use a different word than show.
He'll present it to.
Well, what's the actually the technical term there?
He'll refer it.
Refer. Very good. He'll refer the bill to a favorable committee. Now, whose hands is it in then? Dylan?
The committee chairman.
The committee chairman. And Chad, I have it down here. The committee chairman then refers the bill. Where's it going next?
Subcommittee.
Subcommittee. Very good. Now, what does the subcommittee do? Like I said, this is where the bulk of the work is done, at the subcommittee level. Subcommittee holds hearings, listens to expert testimony, and also makes changes to the bill, amends the bill. Now, when I say hearings and testimony, Margo, what does that usually mean? What does that make you think of?
Like a courthouse.
Yeah, court of law.
Yeah.
But we know that a hearing actually is any forum in which testimony has been given. And what do we know about members of Congress? Where do they come from? What's their... The majority of congressmen come from what profession, Meredith?
Lawyers.
Lawyers. Okay. Yet there's lawyers, there's doctors. You think back to the Ken Burns documentary we watched about Congress. School teachers even have been members of Congress. What we do know is they're probably not experts in terms of being formally educated experts in the field that they're in Congress, in that type of subcommittee, or even in that type of committee. So what do they do when they're putting together legislation? Called in, they're asked in by the subcommittee, and then as we'll see later, the full committee members. And they're asked to give testimony. They're asked questions pertaining to the bill, and then they answer. Now, what I'm going to show you here, is a subcommittee hearing. Just to give you a little background. The Appropriations Committee is the committee that allocates money. It is broken up into several subcommittees. One of these subcommittees allocates money to the Defense Department and to various defense enterprises that the country might engage in. So what type of experts do you think would testify at a hearing on a bill that's going to give money to the Defense Department, defense enterprise of the country? Yeah, Lyle?
Maybe a defense interest group?
Okay, perhaps a defense interest group. A contractor, maybe. Who else? Lonnie?
The general?
Generals. And actually, how do you say that? Let's go ahead and take a look at the clip.
Now, a House hearing on how sequestration will affect the defense budget. House Appropriations Committee Chairman Harold Rogers spoke in favor of a spending bill that would fund the Defense Department for the remainder of the fiscal year. Military leaders also testify about the effects of the sequester, set to take place Friday, that cuts $46 billion from the Pentagon's fiscal 2013 budget. This is just under 3 hours.
The whole hearing's 3 hours, and I've given you all what happened.
Hearing will come to order. I want to say first to our witnesses today that after a long time in the Congress where all of my assignments have been dealing with national security, I continue to be tremendously impressed with the leadership of America's military. And you represent that leadership, and I can tell you that it's really exciting to be in the same room with all of you. You have, and your predecessors have built a tremendous national security program. We're trying to keep it like that. We're trying to make sure that our readiness stays high, that our troops are well taken care of, that they have whatever equipment they need, whatever training that they need to do the mission that they're called on to perform. So it's just really great to be with all of you today.
Okay. That's the opening of the meeting, the hearing. It'll last 3 hours, in which you saw the panel of generals, in which they're going to be asked a series of questions by Congress. Congress is spending the money. They want to know how best to spend the money. Thus, they invite in experts to testify on the bill. Okay? And that's an example of the subcommittee holding a hearing. Now, changes might be made, amendments added to the bill, but eventually the subcommittee is either going to report favorably or unfavorably on the bill. Carrie, what does that mean, to report favorably on a bill? When a bill is reported on favorably, what does that mean?
That
Say that louder.
They send it back to the full committee.
So they send it back. Let's use a different word besides back. They send it, they report it favorably, but in what direction is it going?
For the president?
Yeah, it's going towards the president, if you will. It's going towards passage. They report it out of committee. Once it gets out of the subcommittee, where does it go? Back to the full committee. Back to the full committee. Now, the full committee may accept the recommendation of the subcommittee. It may go ahead and say, hey, we like the bill, we like the changes you made, let's go ahead and vote on it. However, members may call for their own hearings, just like the one we just saw. They may want to hear from their own experts. And they may offer their own amendments. Now, just a quick note before we move on. Only about 10 to 15% of bills get past this stage. As the lady was saying, from 1990, the number was around 16%. Very few bills get past this full committee stage. They die in committee. Now, how do they die in committee? Well, what do we know about the lifespan of a bill? When a bill is introduced, how long does it have?
2 years.
Well, 2 years, maybe, only if it's introduced when? At the very beginning of what?
Of the
term.
Okay, so what is the lifespan then?
The term of Congress.
The term of Congress. Okay, very good. Now, once a bill is reported out from committee, it goes to the Rules Committee. What do we know about the Rules Committee in the Senate, Justin?
They don't have one.
They don't have one, all right? Only the House has a Rules Committee. Why? Yeah, Justin, take it again.
Because the rules committee needs to make sure the debate is limited.
Why is debate limited in the House?
You have so many people and they have so many opinions and they need to get stuff done.
They need to get stuff done. Very good. Debate is limited in the House due to the size of the House. Now, what does the Rules Committee do? Well, it's known as the traffic cop of Congress. Everything must go through the Rules Committee. All bills must go through the Rules Committee. They decide when the debate will be, when to put it on the House calendar, how long each side will get to debate, and then finally, which sections of the bill can be amended, if at all. Now, what's it called if the Rules Committee decides not to allow any amendments? Adrian?
Closed rule?
Closed rule debate. Now, if they allow amendments, what's that called? Open rule. Very good. Bills can also die in the Rules Committee. If the Rules Committee doesn't put the bill on the calendar and the legislative session ends, well, what happens to the bill? It what? It dies. However, if the bill passes out of the Rules Committee, it goes to the House floor. And I know you read about this in your textbook. There's that strange maneuver that the House engages in which they debate and add amendments. And it's called transforming itself into the Committee of the Whole. Max, what's the Committee of the Whole? Well, what is the Committee of the Whole? Stay on you for a second, Max. What is the only thing that the full House does with regards to legislation in this process? So the one thing it does is vote. So what about debate and amendment adding? In order to do that, the House does what? Anybody else want to help out, Max? Alex?
Transform into a whole committee.
Yeah, exactly. Again, bills happen through committees. Well, guess what? The one final step before passage, the House transforms itself into one giant committee. Debate ensues, amendments are added. The rules have already been established for the debate, so everyone in the House knows when the debate's going to end. Now, the House will transform itself, or the Committee of the Whole will transform itself back into the House, where it will vote. Now, what are the two basic types of votes? Of voting. Nathan, give me the first type. Voice vote. And then what's the second type? Right? Roll call. Very good. We're going to take a look at both of those right now. And this is funny. Pay special attention. Listen to the yeas and the nays for the voice vote.
The rest of this time. With that, I want to urge a yes vote on Those opposed, no. The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I'm going to ask for the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays will order. Members will record their vote by electronic device. Pursuant to clause 9 of Rule 20, the chair will reduce to 5 minutes minimum time for any electronic vote on the question of adopting the resolution. This is a 15-minute vote.
All right. Now, if a majority of the House members present vote yea, what happens to the bill? The bill is passed through the House. Now where must it go? The Senate. And we'll take a look at that next.